Hi, my name is Miss Calle. I'm the school social worker here at Mercer County Technical School Aspen Center. For me, I believe chronic stress affects students physically in the long run, in a sense where there has been a lot of connection between autoimmune system disorders that really, when a student or just anybody, a kid, carries a lot of trauma within their body and they don't know how to express that the correct way, whether it's through crying or just sharing emotions, they keep it in. A lot of times our bodies then starts to react a different way. So I do think medically it will have a long-term effect on them. So I do think chronic stress is a really big factor here at MCTS Health Science Academy, and I think essentially is because of the program and what's expected. So I think from the very beginning, right, students that are accepted into this program have to have a certain GPA or grades or certain expectations for themselves on top of just completing an admissions test. And I think that from the very beginning it's very hard. On top of that, I think just adjusting to a smaller setting, although it's not a bad thing, it's very different than your typical high school that most students go to. And then just expectations, which the dual enrollment classrooms, as well as having to take college credits, and on top of everything else such as sports, extracurricular activities, studying for SATs, and just applying for college as well. I think for me the biggest thing that I think most adults don't understand about teen mental health is the fact that they are just people trying to learn how to navigate through life and try to manage a lot of different stressors. So I think that a lot of times, adults and parents, and not all, but sometimes they think that teenagers, all they have to worry about is school, right? But essentially they are at school all day, and that is a lot of work, and there's a lot of pressure as to what to do for the rest of your life. I also think just in general that social media, it is a big factor, but I think most people want to blame social media for mental health completely, and I don't think it's that. I just think that social media is an additional factor that it does affect kids with or teenagers with their mental health, but I think mental health has always been there. It's just more noticeable now just because most teens are more willing to share with their peers. I think the best way to encourage your peers to ask for help is sharing your experience with an adult that you did have a good experience with, right? So that's similar to kind of like my role. I've had students who have come to me because another student had shared that they have felt comfortable talking to me, right? And it doesn't have to be me specifically, but just any adult that you may feel comfortable. And just asking. Sometimes you don't have to say hey, I need this for myself. You can say oh, I just want more information, and taking that information and just looking it up yourself and see if it does fit you. And if you have more questions, just asking what the resources are available for yourself or your friends. One of my advice that I have for any teenager who may feel ashamed or afraid to ask for help, I think it's really finding someone that you really trust, right? And I don't mean go talk to just a random person or even your friend, because I think a lot of times, even with our friends that we're close with, we don't feel comfortable because we don't want them to look at us differently, but more of talking to different adults and trying to see if you actually connect with them, and then asking for help. And another thing is you're not alone. There's many teenagers that do struggle with mental health. Some are just better at keeping it, I call it a secret, or putting it away, compared to other students who are more willing to express their emotions, and you're able to almost tell among your school community, your peers who are struggling more, I call it more present than the students who are not. But it doesn't mean that you're alone. I think self-care has become a really big thing for everyone, but I also think there's a really weird misconception, right, where if you do a mask every Friday, it's not going to solve your problems, not going to make you feel better, right? It's more, I think about it, it's doing something every day that makes you happy, right? So, and that's even on the hard day. So we're going to talk about, let's say makeup or face routines or the mask or whatever it is. You have to do that consistently, even on the days that you're not feeling like you have to do that, or you don't have the energy to. And also self-positive talk. I think a lot of times we forget that, right? Because we can wake up and we can be like, oh my God, today sucked, this is going wrong, this I'm failing at this, I'm not good at that. Like, we have to try to reframe that the way we speak to ourselves, because that really gets stuck in our head. And sometimes I think, not just teenagers, but just people in general, we are like our worst critics. And I don't think that's necessarily, the best way to go about it. And also remembering that you're only 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You have so much more to look forward to in life, and just not allowing whatever is happening now to ruin your future, in a sense, like to think that everything's going to go wrong, because that's not true. Things just change and things happen for a reason. So I think something that I, could work or help for students who are constantly on the move and doing a lot of things, listening to music. I think that's a really big one. And also podcasts. So, try to look for someone that you feel like that could be a positive influence to whatever it is that you're going through. It doesn't always have to be everything positive, anything that's funny, or just something that may not be that you're usually used to listening to. Meditation. I know a lot of people are very against it. That's not my favorite thing to do, but I do think that if you take 2-3 minutes before moving on to your next event or extracurricular activity, it's a good thing for you. And just hanging out with friends, or talking to your friends, calling someone, like if you're driving home or you're on the phone, someone that's going to make you feel just a little bit better, just having, again, that positive connection with someone that you feel comfortable with. So for mindfulness or meditation, it's helpful just trying to reframe your thoughts from going out of control, right? Because we all experience anxiety. That's almost unavoidable. But it's more, instead of letting it get from like point A to point Z, it's more of like, okay, yes, I am having anxiety about whatever it is that you're anxious about, but knowing that in that moment, you need to be present, whatever you need to do. And if you do start to spiral or go into like that rabbit hole, thinking like everything's gonna fall apart, just taking a step back and again, this is a self-positive talk, and just being grateful for what you have in that moment, right? Like, yes, maybe I didn't get whatever it is that I needed, but this is what I have, and trying to still enjoy what you have in front of you. I think the best way for meditation, so again, I don't think it's for everybody, including myself. It's never worked for me, if I'm being honest. It just doesn't work, because for me, it's more of, if I'm quiet, the noise gets too loud. So that makes me feel worse. So sometimes I gotta think about it that way. So no, meditation is not for everybody, which is why I like to listen to music, right? Where I'm able to still, my thoughts are there, but now I'm listening to something that makes me feel better. But again, try it. So meditation can be as simple as, actually listening to somebody talk through your emotions. Meditation can also mean, like, if you like the ocean, right, just putting on the ocean sounds, or you like birds chirping, putting that on. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to close your eyes and go into a yoga pose. I think sometimes people think that's what meditation is, but it's just simply that, just finding something that makes you feel better. Also, like, for me, like, just doing things that women feel okay. So like going outside and looking at nature, like if you like that, that's still a form of meditation where you can just enjoy what's in front of you as well. And the only other thing, like, I would like to add is just, asking for help and understanding that you're not alone, even though it does feel like it. Most of the time, everyone's experiencing some kind of stress. It's just different levels. And I think learning how to cope with stress, and whether it's anxiety, depression, or anything that you're going through, learning how to cope with it now is going to be very helpful as you get older, because there will be different obstacles that you do have to overcome, and it's going to happen. Life is not always going to be linear, but understanding how do we deal with that, and understanding that it will be okay, and surrounding yourself with positive people. Sometimes it's hard also with like family members, right? Like that's another big thing, but making sure that you set boundaries and just take care of yourself. If you're able to do that, it's not going to always be, perfect, but just understanding different ways to cope. And every year, every so often, you're going to change. You change as a person, so your coping skills have to also change.